History is one of the most fascinating subjects to study. It not only gives us the ability to see what happened in the past, it allows us the unique opportunity to see why it is that things are the way that they are today. Part of the fun of studying is traveling to the places where history is made, walking where the people walked, and seeing where the important things happened. But from time to time, you run into places from history that are hard to study because, well, everyone who once lived there is gone. Scattered across the earth are a handful of cities whose populations have been lost to the passing of time, leaving only the shells of their societies. Their ghost towns sometimes look as if everyone simply disappeared, leaving only the buildings and random belongings to tell the tale of what happened. Here are 5 of the largest abandoned cities on Earth. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to Underworld for more just like it. What would it be like to live in an entire town where every house doesn't look like a house, but a Disney castle? That's exactly what it's like to live in the town of Burj Al Babas. There's only one problem. No one lives there. Burj Al Babas is a $200 million housing development located near Mudurnu in northwestern Turkey, roughly midway between Istanbul and Ankara. Development began in 2014, with chateaus reportedly selling for $400,000 to $500,000. The idea was that the properties would be bought up by wealthy Gulf investors. However, the plans did not work out as they thought. Although a few were sold, the vast majority did not. It seemed as though the entire concept was a little too far-fetched for serious investors, scaring them away. The ones that did purchase properties ended up abandoning them as well. Today, it is a tourist attraction for those who want to see the failed project. Hundreds of castles sit empty, arranged in precise rows and looking as majestic as ever, minus the occasional graffiti and broken windows. It really is an incredible sight to see. More than 500 homes all look the same, with blue-gray steeples and Gothic fixtures. Varosha used to be an incredibly popular tourist destination for the rich and famous in the 1970s. Movie stars, athletes, and other public figures would frequent this Mediterranean paradise for every type of luxurious shopping and beach experience available. However, in 1974, the country of Cyprus was divided into the Turkish Cypriot North and Greek Cypriot South. It was a violent time which caused many of the residents to flee for safety. So, Varosha became part of the UN buffer zone known as the Green Line. In 1984, a security resolution from the United Nations prohibited resettlement of the city. So, the only people who have legally been inside the now fenced-off area is the Turkish military. Now, 47 years later, the city is marked by collapsing hotels and the spooky remnants left behind by those who lived, worked, and vacationed in the town. At the time, the city was on the brink of violence, and residents left in a big hurry. Some left their wedding presents in their attics. Others said they still had pots cooking on the stove when they left. Although the state plans to revitalize the city in the near future, it is still closed off to everyone except for Turkish military forces, UN officials, and the occasional journalist, making this one of the spookiest and fascinating abandoned cities in the world. But perhaps not quite as interesting as this next entry. The country of Georgia used to be a part of the Soviet Union. During that time, the city of Akarmara was a bustling coal mining town. Home to over 40,000 people, it was a heavily industrialized place with the vast majority of its residents being employed in the mining industry. But as the Soviet Union collapsed, ethnic tensions began to boil over, and the Abkhazian Civil War erupted between Abkhaz separatists, various militias, and the Georgian military. It was a particularly violent conflict that was defined by widespread destruction and ethnic cleansing. The violence was widespread, and nobody knew if they would be the targets of the next attacks. So, they abandoned the city in droves, leaving nearly everything behind. Today, the population is only a few hundred people spread out across a massive area. The remnants of Soviet apartment blocks reach 6 or 7 stories high, and they only have 1 or 2 families left in them. The streets are rotting away and slowly being taken over by tropical plants. In summer, the town is a popular destination for Russian tourists who visit from Sukhumi on day trips. There are rumors of restoring the area into a grand resort, but in an unstable country that is mostly unrecognized by the rest of the world, it seems to be a very far-fetched idea. Once upon a time, Sanzhi, Taiwan was intended to be a busy holiday resort where people would come from all over the world to surf, snorkel, and bask in the sun. It earned the unique nickname UFO City because of the unique construction of the homes in the resort. The future row houses were designed by Finnish architect Matti Suuronen and resembled a type of whimsical flying saucer. The prefabricated plastic oddities were originally designed as ski chalets light enough to be airlifted onto any terrain. Reportedly, less than 10 of these types of residences exist in the world, but there are more than 10 in this area alone. But this is where some of the mystery comes in. These dwellings do not appear to have been sanctioned by Suuronen himself, and there doesn't seem to be any publicly accessible information as to where they came from or even exactly when they were built. Today, the area is empty. In 2008, the buildings were scheduled to be torn down, despite an online petition to retain one of the structures as a museum. Demolition began in December of that year, with plans to redevelop the site into a tourist attraction with hotels and beach facilities. By 2010, all of the UFO houses were demolished. Now, the only remnants of this mysterious city are the pictures and videos that you can find online. Before we get to our final entry, here's an honorable mention. It would not be a true story about abandoned cities without talking about the Ukrainian city of Pripyat. Prior to 1986, the city was very lively, serving as the place of residence for the Soviet Union's nearby nuclear power plant, Chernobyl. The city's nearly 50,000 residents had everything from a school and hospital to shopping centers and theme parks. For all of the work that the people did at the power plant, they were well looked after. That all changed on April 16th of that year when reactor number 4 of the power plant exploded, releasing deadly amounts of radiation into the atmosphere, which drifted into Pripyat. Sadly, at first, the residents did not realize the seriousness of the situation and stayed for a few days, living normally. But when the news was finally given that they should leave, they did not hesitate. Today, school chalkboards still have notes written on them from the last day's lesson. Clothes still hang in the closets. The enormous Ferris wheel still stands. It is a picturesque place, stuck in time and surrounded by an invisible poison to anyone who stays in the area for too long. When it comes to building things on a massive scale, China stands out among everyone else. It makes sense for the country with the highest population on Earth. They have everything from natural wonders to extravagant amenities. China even has replica cities of places like Venice and London, as well as buildings that look like the White House and the World Trade Center. That was the idea behind the city of Tiandusheng, a city located about 2 hours west of Shanghai. Meant to support a population of 10,000, the city was built as a miniature Paris, complete with a 300-foot-tall Eiffel Tower, grey Parisian facades, cobblestone streets, and Renaissance fountains. Unfortunately for Tiandusheng, the planning was wrong from the beginning. Although everything was built with grandeur and beauty, it was built in the middle of a rural countryside. Here, many people lived in poverty or lived a simplistic life, leaving them unaware of or uninterested in a place with such flashy features. Cut off from urban connections or public transportation, few people moved in. Today, Tiandusheng has a population of less than 10% of its maximum capacity, leaving many buildings and streets empty. Abandoned cities are some of the best storytellers in the world. They tell tales of tragedy, poor planning, failed economic policies, and collapsed industries. However, they leave behind beautiful and sometimes haunting evidence of their stories, and these stories are much more interesting when seen instead of read. Be sure to click the link on screen to check out more of our videos, from natural disasters to crazy moments caught on camera. You won't want to miss it. With that, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.